Apple may jump in to rescue Intel at the perfect moment, but is it for technology, strategy, or political advantage? And the real story behind rescue squads and CEO shakeups is more complicated than headlines suggest.
Qualcomm has like a modem in the iPhone, and they've been trying to do that. So at the end of the day, it is curious, especially if it's not for foundry. I mean, Apple does have most of their chips are made at Taiwan Semi, which is the case for most chips that are out there on the planet. So it's curious. The one thing I'll say about Intel is that there are very few stocks in the S&P 500 with over $100 billion market cap that are as hated as much as this stock by Wall Street. I think there's only 5 buys. There's about 4 holds and like 8 or so sells. So when you think about that, this is really, I love the term rescue squad, because no one's investing in this company because of their technology or their IP or their manufacturing prowess. There's something else there, and I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah, and I'm with you, and I'm really curious what that something else is. I think what this does is this essentially makes the pool a little bit murky. Are you investing in Intel, partnering with Intel, because you actually have a strong conviction around what that ROI or ROIC will be, or is this a way for you to align yourself with the administration? And I just think I'd be a bit ignorant.
Maybe both.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe both. But my point is that, like, I certainly don't have a clear answer. And given what we're seeing in the recent positioning, the recent announcement of the White House ownership, to me, a murky picture is not what I want as an investor. Now, with that said, I think this is all tailwinds as far as the narrative is concerned. If you look at the performance of the stock over the last 2 years, clearly, like, you want an American turnaround Phoenix from the ashes story. And I'm not willing to get in front of that because I do think that momentum can be quite powerful. I just do want to spend some time saying that I believe the narrative at this point has somewhat disassociated itself from the actual fundamentals of the company.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything you said. I think, the cash infusions, that helps. They need them. They're losing money, right? That's really important. So taking away some of that downside makes the calculus a little bit better. But there is this frenzy going on right now, and just announcement of any kind of tie-up, even with or without details, it seems like buy the stock and ask questions later, which I'm really not comfortable with that, and thinking about the response.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? To the NVIDIA OpenAI announcement of a likelihood of a deal, I guess you would call it, expectation of a deal. I don't know. It just seems like the math is just starting to get out of whack. I don't know if we'll touch on Alibaba later. Can I talk about it now?
You just did.
Okay. So, I mean, the response of the stock to this $53 billion of initial... first of all, I don't know if it's incremental or if that was always the spend. Let's just say it's somewhat incremental. The reaction to the stock of, $29 billion of market cap improvement for that seems like a lot. And I like Alibaba. It's fun when it goes up, but I feel like things are getting a little bit out of control. That having been said, I am taking some money off the table either through put spreads or looking for other things to hedge what feels like a very frothy AI environment.
I bought Intel on the new CEO, and then 3 life preservers or rescue squads later, I sold 25% of the position. I think we can make it to mid-30s, but it's had an incredible move. This was a $50 stock back in December 2023. If it retraces half of it, it's 35. I'm going to sell the other 25 there. If it doesn't and it breaks down, I'll just liquidate the position.
Mm-hmm. I get your points completely in terms of all the narratives and the question marks. But at the same time, you also have the juice potentially of a new CEO, and a new CEO that is committed, has been brought on to make the story work. So that plus the life preservers, doesn't that change it? So if it were Pat Gelsinger still, the old CEO with these life preservers, I would agree that the narrative has not changed at all.
Maybe we wouldn't got
But it's a little bit, that's true.
Pat Gelsinger, he was a technologist. I mean, these were people that were meant to do this every step of the way. I think they've had 5 CEOs in the last 20 years or something like that. These were not like chumps. You know what I mean? Yeah. These were people meant to do this, to actually figure out what's coming next, execute on that roadmap, and, all the way along. I mean, AMD was eating their lunch, obviously NVIDIA and GPUs. So listen, these guys all see something. I'm just some dumb guy who sits on this desk. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, they're all seeing something. I'm not buying it, but all of these equity infusions, they're all dilutive to equity shareholders. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that this is a great investment if you're buying the stock right here. If you are a strategic buyer like an NVIDIA or an Apple, there might be dividends that are paid that have nothing to do with the price appreciating one way or another. And the other thing I'll just say about the Alibaba, it is curious. You just mentioned that it got this market cap appreciation based on a CapEx number that they threw out there. We had seen that in the hyperscalers going back the last couple of years. Now we start to see it with those sorts of revenue guides that we're seeing like out of Oracle the last few weeks or so. So it's a little curious. I'd rather a stock go up because of revenue guide than a CapEx guide. This is way the returns on that. Who knows when that's going to materialize?
But at the same time, the appreciation to Alibaba, you may be able to justify it a little bit more because the valuation of Alibaba is much lower than, say, Oracle or any of these other companies that have announced something and then, got rewarded for it.
Even with the extraordinary run of Alibaba, I think probably maybe the multiples moved to like 17 times earnings.
Right.
Yeah. After you take out the cap.
Yeah, and then you still have some of the friction around the Hopper 20 and whether that's going to be accepted in China. So I think that there are tangible things that you can point to in terms of Alibaba. I hear you in terms of $50-some-odd billion translating to an increase in market cap of $30 billion overnight. That's pretty incredible. But I can at least wrap my mind around the narrative about how you get there. When it comes to Intel, the fact that the CEO has essentially just re-explored the 18A process, like undoing what was a poor investment, to me is differentiated from a new winning strategy, and I've yet to understand what that is. Clearly, they've been able to kind of rally the troops and get this investment into a U.S. domiciled company, but aside from